Hey there, rock and rollers. You're watching Classic Rock Record Review with Gabe. Today, we're going to be reviewing a record from, I want to say 1995. We're talking, maybe 96, I don't know. We're talking Crash by Dave Matthews Band. So, check out this shaker here. You got your ball, you got your chain. So, why did I listen to and review this record today? I mean, maybe like as a middle-aged dad, I'm hoping that I'd finally get the Dave. But no, I stumbled across the Pitchfork current review, like from the vaults. Some dude who liked Dave Matthews Band in high school reviewed the album and had a lot to say about it and gave it like a 7.5 out of 10 or something. But the thing is, I couldn't finish the article. Like, it was well written and stuff, and I read and read and read and read, and I looked at the little scroll tab, like, I'm only a third done with this thing. And so I listened to Crash, and that's kind of how I feel most of the time listening to Dave Matthews. Anyways, to be sure, never owned Crash, never owned any Dave Matthews album, never seen him in concert. I have met him on many occasions. He was a regular customer at the bakery I worked. He lived in the neighborhood. Very nice guy. And Crash, I'm sure I have heard the album in its entirety in like other people's cars, and maybe, you go to a coffee shop in 1999 or 2000 that's playing and stuff. So, I'm familiar with it, but this is the first time I had actually, been in my own car, streaming it, listening to it, evaluating it. And so, my thoughts. So, I'm going to say that, I respect Dave Matthews as a person and a musician and stuff, but you know where I'm going with this. I understand why people who like him. I also understand why most people don't like him and his music. So, this review I read, I should be talking about a Pitchfork review and my own review, but this review, and I think other people have said this before, they kind of described Dave Matthews and his band as anti-grunge, like the exact opposite of what was going on in grunge. Like, instead of some band with a one-word name doing like songs with one-word names that are dun 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 dun, like that. This guy with a normal name, using his normal name, with acoustic-driven music that's pretty much the opposite of grunge in many ways. Don't necessarily feel that, though, and I'll get to that in a minute. Dave Matthews, to me, was a continuation of, before him, there are all these, like, legacy artists, like Sting, Peter Gabriel, David Byrne, Paul Simon, that's the other one, yeah. And what happens is, they're in their 30s or, heaven forbid, their 40s, and then I decide, you know what? I'm going to make, like, some world music. I'm going to play with some international musicians from around the world. And then I'm going to be like this awkward white guy in front with my songs, but they're going to have like all these, syncopated rhythms and stuff. And it was like a big thing for many artists across the 80s and into the early 90s. And so Dave Matthews kept that going, except that rather than being a legacy artist, he was like a new current artist who was under 30 from a college town. That and I've never really got this, but at the time, but like high school students liked him then. So, including, some of my friends. So, I listened to it with my middle-aged dad ears and trying to figure out, what is the people that like about Dave Matthews? Something I really respect about the Dave Matthews Band is that, he had no interest in being hip. And I think that's kind of cool. He threw all those sorts of pretensions out the window. I also got to say, though, really not hip either. But no, seriously, though, the anti-grunge thing, I say not all that accurate, because there was a major grunge band that actually sounded a lot like Dave Matthews that I would imagine was a pretty big influence on him. And no, I'm not talking about Nirvana or Soundgarden. Of course, I'm talking about Pearl Jam. Come on, I mean, like, sure, they rocked harder, but when they played, you know, that stuff, that's not worlds removed from Dave Matthews. So let's talk about the, unusual combination of world music and adult alternative that, became Dave Matthews Band. So, basically they were Pearl Jam with sax. I mean, this is like, they're rated R for sax, drums, and violins, but, Dave's vocal affectations are strange. I mean, it's kind of like somewhere in between like Eddie Vedder, Kermit the Frog, and David Byrne. Like if you just took some of the attributes of the three voices and put them all together. But weirdly, a vocalist that did kind of the yodeling, kind of thing that he does in addition to the kind of more spastic thing, that his vocal delivery actually seems like it could have been influenced by is Lee Mavers from The Laws, who, just a couple years before Dave Matthews Band hit the scene, had, one of those should have been a hit albums in their, self-titled album, The Law, ''S. Britpop band that was not very successful because Lee Mavers was kind of weird. Like, he insisted on recording guitar amps, like, put in the top of trees and stuff like that. But listen to the Laws album and you'll hear, like, some of that weird yodeling and stuff and kind of more Cockney accent, but it could be kind of like, oh, yeah, the Dave might have got his shtick from this. So, okay, so Crash. It starts off with So Much to Say. A song that, if I had to name Dave Matthews Band song off the top of my head other than Crash Into Me, might take a moment, that might be one that I'd name, because I'm familiar with it. I also might name, like, Don't Drink the Water or something. Satellite, yeah. The song that everyone used to learn how to play. But anyways, so when you first put on the record, you hear, like, the first few measures of music, you hear this acoustic white guy funk, stuff, and you're like, oh, that's right, here we go. But there are times, though, when they step into this, when things kind of gel and it gets kind of hip. And for me, it's generally when Dave is not singing. So there's a song on there, Too Much. Like, it starts off with this cool thing with horns and violin and stuff. And it's like the, horniness of it with the rock and, the tight stuff just kind of reminds me of Chicago or something. It's kind of cool for a minute. But then, like, the Dave lets out this weird, awkward, woo! And just, like, ruins the whole scene when he starts singing. And, Crash Into Me, as far as Dave Matthews songs goes, it's kind of a banger. It's catchy. Could have been a Pearl Jam song, it's just Pearl Jam with sax. But Peter's coming down. Most of the record is so jammy. Hi, my boy. How are you?
What?
And our drummer, Carter Buford, I think that's his name. He tunes his drums really weird, like really tight. Like he tunes them to sound just like a Roland electric drum set or something. Boom, 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 boom. It's weird. Like it's an alternate universe from the more pingy punk rock sound or the detuned rock and roll sound of drums that other drummers are doing. But yeah, honestly, I think I'd like the record a lot more without Dave's singing and otherwise contributions to it. I mean, if it had been like the Carter Buford Band or something instead, I might kind of, it might be kind of a hip record. like, you know, when they do their kind of more Chicago sort of thing, I like that. But then you've got, this yodeling Kermit the Frog stuff happening on top of it, and some of the songs are just so long. I actually flipped through some songs on his next album, Before These Crowded Streets, afterwards. Even worse, even wankier, just like one really long jam after another, and jams just aren't my jam. Hi, Peter, how are you, my boy? Good. Good. So, what else? I have so much to say, but what else could I say about this? So, I kind of get, I don't know, like Dave Matthews is just not a hacky sack that I'm hitting, but I kind of get why people who like Dave Matthews. For me, Dave Matthews Band is like the musical equivalent of a $6 water bottle, or it is like if a Subaru Outback was a band, what it would sound like. I mean, that's Dave Matthews Band to me. But there are, lots of Subaru Outback owners there who love their car. It's just, Outback is a good car at being an Outback. But I was thinking about Dave Matthews. There's a reason. So think twice before you call anyone an African American. Like if you see a person who's black, don't just call them an African American, because I was thinking, you could argue that Dave Matthews is African American. And you could argue that, Grace Jones is not African American, Bob Marley not African American. So just, remember that. Oh, this Pitchfork review also, talked about Crash actually having as much emotional resonance or something as Nevermind, and maybe it does, but something that I can put my finger on that does not connect with me about this Dave Matthews style of music is that if you made sheet music of Nirvana or something, it would have a nice contour to it. It would be, you could look at the sheet music, you could see where it was going, and you could tell by looking at it, yeah, this is catchy, this is good stuff. And, even, Sting, think about Sting. That's got to be someone that Dave Matthews was hella inspired by. But Sting had a gift for real knack for melody, just those do 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 do. I mean, that's a big ass melody, he was full of those. Though I tried before to tell her of the feeling I have for her in my heart. I mean, there's so much structure to it, so much rhythm. I mean, you could tell by looking at a sheet music of Sting that you were looking at some bangers. But Dave Matthews, if you looked at it, if there was, Dave Matthews sheet music of the vocal lines and stuff, which there probably are, they would be full of so many weird, dotted 16th rests and dotted eighths tied to half notes and just, crazy stuff and big, jumps over there from octave to, big vocal range jumps for the yodeling and stuff. It wouldn't even look like music. It would just look like, if you give a kid some music notation software and just, okay, kid, start dropping stuff on the staff. You would do it. You got your ball, you got your chain. And I'm using one of the only catchy melodies on the album as an example because it's full of non-catchy melodies. But, I mean, there is a certain kind of tight coolness to when when the sax and the violins and the flutes and all that kind of and like I kind of see where if you listen to the music a bunch and you got like your homies all together and you got your hacky sack and you jump in your Subaru Outback, you go to the Gorge, see Dave Matthews. I can see how that's a good time for people who are into that. But and you know, I'm someone who likes clubby music as opposed to gorgy music, you know, and so that's why I just have a hard time hitting that hacky sack myself. I mean, and Dave himself is a cool guy. He's a good musician, and it's cool that he's got a real international sensibility and stuff. I mean, I would say that for that style of, rocker dude playing world beat music, I would say it's been done better. I would say Sting, much better. And Sting also, he's a new waver at heart, so as opposed to, Dave Matthews is almost always acoustic, there's the Too Much song has a little bit of kind of crunchy guitar in there that kind of hints at Pearl Jam or something, but otherwise it's not really much electric guitar, and really no keyboards to speak of. I noticed a little bit of piano on Before These Crowded Streets, and that's the difference between, Sting being a new waver at heart is gonna have some keyboards, gonna have some synths and some cool stuff there. So, I would also say, rather than listening to these white guys, if you like this kind of music, want to hear it done way better, like go back into the 70s, listen to Milton Nascimento from Brazil. Way better, at this style of music really done right. But, the world beat Pearl Jam with sax was pretty successful, and the Dave's probably still touring. Still probably a lot of Dave heads out there. I mean, listening to it, I get why people like it, but I still am not really grooving on it myself. Whereas, in my older late age, I've come to appreciate Springsteen and stuff, but still not a Dave head, and I think this is probably his best record, so I don't know. But yeah, Crash Into Me. Or Crash. See.